live. Whose side is Paul Heyman really on? That is going to be the main topic of today's video. But of course, it's a live Q&A, so your questions count. We're going full WWE NXT for us today. We're on the road to WrestleMania. We're on the road to Stand and Deliver after Roadblock took place last night. We want all your questions WWE based. We have a couple of TNA ones that have been thrown in nice and early as well. So get yourselves involved. But we're going to be talking about, as I mentioned there, whose side is Paul Heyman really on? Because Roman Reigns returned on Raw this past Monday in Madison Square Garden after arguably the best WWE Steel Cage match I've seen in years. CM Punk versus Seth Freakin Rollins was an absolute spectacle. I think one of the main reasons for that, by the way, is that neither man wanted to escape the cage. They even tempted the other guy, go on, just walk out, show that you want to get out of this. Do you know what I mean? I loved that aspect. They wanted to fight inside the cage. Of what's absolutely superb. Anyway, to the point, of course, at the end of the match, Roman Reigns makes his return, pulls Seth Rollins out of the cage. Therefore, Seth gets his win back over CM Punk, gets some arguably Royal Rumble revenge. We could put a question mark on that one there, destroying Seth Rollins on the floor. Whilst that is going on, Paul Heyman's inside the cage, kind of cradling CM Punk like a little bubba. I like that. And Roman had a little look there, a little look of jealousy, if you ask me personally. He went in there and completely annihilated CM Punk. Paul Heyman there, of course, he is the wise man after all. Originally, at one point, he was the voice of the voiceless, if you remember back in 2012 and 2013. However, Roman Reigns destroying CM Punk at the end of the show. And, of course, this leads to the big tease. What next on the road to WrestleMania? I think we can all safely say it's going to be Roman Reigns versus Seth Freakin Rollins versus CM Punk in a triple threat match. But the big question I have for you, NXT, is Roman Reigns or CM Punk? Whose side is Paul Heyman really on?
I mean, we was talking before, this was giving me kind of like flashbacks to Harry Potter here. This is going to be the most Harry Potter WWE reference ever. Cedric Diggory dying. And Heyman is like, my boy. And it's just, that was it, man. I was like, it just seemed like, look, we all know Punk is Heyman's guy. Heyman is Punk's guy. And if anything, it makes it more interesting, man. And I'm loving the idea that there is now a doubt there that Heyman could go back to CM Punk. I mean, dude, if you want CM Punk to get his way back into a world title scene, why not have, do you know what I mean, the wise man back in charge again?
Absolutely. But this is the fun part, because obviously we go back into some storytelling late last year. Obviously, the scenario going on with the bloodline after WrestleMania, Roman Reigns had lost his championship. He took a big hiatus until SummerSlam. During that period, Paul Heyman was stuck with the new bloodline. Of course, that was Solo Sikoa's version of the group at that time. And of course, he at one point wanted to escape before he was technically kicked out of the group. He was pretty much screaming to CM Punk, take me with you. I want to go back to you. Of course, Punk at that point pretty much more or less said he would defend Paul Heyman, but things didn't really materialize much further at that point. I think during that same show, that was the show actually on the SmackDown where Drew McIntyre destroyed CM Punk as well on their road to having their feud, I believe around SummerSlam time, I want to say, at that period. Anyway, we fast forward and then to the War Games match, of course, in November at Survivor Series. Roman Reigns was lacking a fifth member, couldn't find one. Seth freaking Rollins was someone that was being trying to be touted on that team. Funnily enough, how sometimes long-term storytelling can pay off in WWE. But CM Punk was the guy that came in. Of course, the reason he did that was because Paul Heyman offered him a favor. We still don't know what that favor is. There's been many questions up until now. It's going to involve the Royal Rumble. Will CM Punk get perhaps his title match at WrestleMania? Would he get that main event of WrestleMania? How is it all going to be thrown together? Well, it's not being used anytime now. And I suppose we can link this in with one of our first questions of the night, because Jonesy does ask us, should it be saved until 2026? My personal answer on that is no. I think it should be used for this WrestleMania. I think it should be that this triple threat match should be made into the main event of night one, because Heyman has that power. Either that or the winner of the triple threat match gets to night 2 and gets to get involved with Cody and Cena. But so far with storytelling, currently since Elimination Chamber, I think Cody and Cena looks to be locked on what they're doing single stuff. I know Punk has had his say on John Cena and, of course, Dwayne The Rock Johnson as well, but I think Punk's direction now is quite firmly in the court of, well, what's going to be Seth Rollins and now especially Roman Reigns. I'm excited for the next pipe bomb from CM Punk. However, we talk about that favor. It comes from Paul Heyman, and obviously, whilst that's still not out in the open, that's another reason why Roman Reigns potentially could be a bit jealous.
Yeah, man, and I think this is like the best way to not get Punk into a main event and Seth, because the ultimately for me the end goal here is still them two in a main event at WrestleMania. Having this match and this angle is a perfect way to have neither of them in a main event, because as soon as the end of Elimination Chamber happened and the way that Seth screwed Punk over, my literally on my notes on my phone, as I always make for when we do the reviews, was Punk versus Rollins will main event one of the nights next year. 2026, I reckon, is what they're going to do, which is why I don't think they're going to do the Heyman favor till next year. It's why it's going to be this year, because Roman will be off doing whatever, or, you know, Heyman might be back with Punk by this time next year. But I think that those two are destined for a main event match. And I think having them in a match that isn't the main event, I think is silly and frivolous. Like unless there's a title involved, I reckon that should be the goal. It should be between them two. This story is like, we've just come off 2 years of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. There's no reason why they can't push this again to another year. In terms of Roman, dude, honestly, this is just, it's keeping Roman busy for WrestleMania, which I think is the smartest thing to do in terms of booking. None of them are currently in the title scene. I don't personally want them to be in the Cody Cena match. I don't think they need it. I think that it already has its heightened drama. The fact that it's Cena Hogan, no, sorry, it's Rock Hogan, but now it's Cena Cody. So I'll just keep them as far away from each other as possible and let them have their moment and build to something next year. And just, dude, it's such a good story. Like you said a minute ago, with all the little nods to everything going back, like Survivor Series last year, when everyone thought Rollins would be the fifth man and it ends up being Punk. And it's crazy how sometimes long-term storytelling pays off, whether it was intentional or not. But the fact that they have that option to go back to in terms of the build for WrestleMania is just fantastic.
Absolutely. And to be fair, like when you look back at the sort of, I suppose, Easter eggs of what's been the build to where we are now, if, like you said, it was intentional or not, it's been going on for a very long time. You can even argue with the CM Punk Seth part. It's been going on since Punk came back.
Exactly.
But it feels for sure that you could definitely pinpoint since last July. That's definitely when Punk and Heyman first had their first interaction of where this has led to where we are now. But obviously,
the fact as well that they tried to make the cage match the be all and end all. This feud doesn't end on a random Monday Night Raw in March. This is it's a WrestleMania match. Do you know what I mean? Or it is a pay-per-view quality main event. There's no way this ends on a Raw. You could tell it was going to be a weird finish when it's like I said, it's a cage match. I think it's the first they've had on Raw in 10 years or something, which apparently Rollins was the last one to be involved in that. So yeah, there's no way this was just going to end on a random Monday night in March in 2025.
Not on the road to WrestleMania, no. You could.
No.
It was a safe bet, I think, at that particular point. Obviously, now we know Roman's made that return. It's just where they go from here. I mean, obviously, there's so many elements and flavors that I just love about this feud of what you can work with. Obviously, Reigns and Rollins have the history of being rivals, but obviously, you imagine at some point they will shield it up in that triple threat match. CM Punk is the reason these guys were brought to the main roster as the Shield to begin with in kayfabe. Obviously, if you want to go down to the real storyline, Punk wanted Ambrose, he wanted Rollins, and he wanted Chris Hero. Had nothing to do with Roman Reigns. There could always be that jealousy factor that could be in there, thrown on both sides. It'd be very fun to see what and how they're going to go with it. But it's going to be an interesting time. But I will ask the question: do you think that the wise man will still be with Roman Reigns come the end of WrestleMania, or do you reckon he could deflect and perhaps go back to CM Punk?
I mean, there is Paul Heyman. There is no certainties with Paul Heyman. So I wouldn't be against it, and I wouldn't be like either way. I'd be content with it because it's just it's something that they can add to in terms of story. I mean, in terms of if I was fantasy booking for Mania next year, I'm still going Rock Roman. That match still has to happen. It's another one of them. They have to do it. It needs to be done at some point. Paul Heyman is not a necessity for a Rock Roman match. Whereas I think if you put Heyman in with CM Punk, CM Punk, Seth Rollins for Mania next year, I think that's great, man. I think there's some real good storytelling to tell with that. And like, Punk's not exactly bad on a microphone, but you put him back with Heyman and you go back to them nostalgia days. You go back to when he was the voice of the voiceless, when he was, do you know what I mean? He was just like, he was CM Punk. He was ECW CM Punk. Do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't be against it. So I'm quite happy for whatever they do. My only, I wouldn't say worry, it's just how they portray it on TV, is how they deliver this favor that gets Punk into this match. Because at the minute, I don't necessarily think you need this favor. Like, although Roman Seth is supposed to be the match, and Punk gets himself put into it, but it kind of doesn't need it. I think it's almost like, I can see where Jones is coming from with the question now. Does he need this favor? And I mean, they booked himself kind of that he doesn't need to call in this favor, but then again, the favor could be that he starts managing him again. He starts becoming CM Punk's manager again.
It could be. That could be the factor, and that could be the big turning point. That could be the big surprise at WrestleMania. For me, I think it comes down that I think it should be used this year, because I think it should be used to get that night one main event. Because personally, for me, I think time's running out on CM Punk being guaranteed a chance of having a WrestleMania main event. If he's going to get one in his career, you don't know. Like, he's had injuries before. He's had it when he first came back. I feel that time is running out on that pipe dream rather than pipe bomb. So I think personally now is the time if you're going to have CM Punk main event of WrestleMania. I know that's always puts other people to the side, Royal Rumble winners, for example. But I think that this is the second biggest match on the card. So therefore, for me, I think title or not, it should main event WrestleMania. And I think that should be the favor that's called so that Punk gets that. So it links the storylines together, because Punk then, he wanted to try and do everything by merit, but arguably he was screwed at the Chamber. You could argue. Therefore, as he was screwed at the Chamber, he has the favor in the back pocket. He knew he always could use it. He knew it was guaranteed. And he said as well, I'm not giving up on that main event of WrestleMania. He said that immediately on the Raw after Elimination Chamber. Like, it's not finished for me. I'm going to get there. So it's kind of like, I think that there is a pathway to it. And I think it can still happen.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can think of is that if they do like an end of an era and they do Punk versus Seth next year as an end of an era match, it's kind of the only way you can really otherwise get, like, if Punk stays fit, there's an angle there for him to be like, this could be Punk's retirement angle. Who knows? But dude, you're hoping that he's still wrestling for another 10 years. Probably obviously not going to wrestle for another 10 years, but the dream is there, and it's kind of like just fantasy booking more than anything. But I would like to think that he's still got another WrestleMania in him. And dude, I just want to see Punk and Rollins headline of WrestleMania night 2 as well. Like, if they do a night 1, look, you can go and watch as many dirt sheet interviews and like interviews with all these guys. Yes, there's 2 nights, but regardless, night 2 is the main event of WrestleMania. Yes, night 1 has a main event, but night 2 is a main event. Is the main event of WrestleMania, and that's where you want to be.
Totally understand that point. Last question, because I want to get into our questions from our fantastic chat who are going to keep us busy tonight. I can see it already. We've put 3 people on the thumbnail because I just wanted to play devil's advocate, because when I look back at this, we talked about the idea of Roman Reigns. We talked about CM Punk with Paul Heyman. What if the whole thing is a ruse because there's a third man in this story? What if it's Seth freaking Rollins? What if the fact that Heyman secretly is playing Punk and Reigns off each other and could actually align himself with the visionary at WrestleMania? That would be a big twist.
Oh, dude, I honestly would love it. It's just another great Paul Heyman swerve that we would get. Obviously, you know, there is the time when he famously gave up Goldberg to go manage the Big Show, and he's gone from Brock to Roman, and there's just like, he just has this this habit of not being the most trustworthy manager. So you know what I mean? The possibility is there, and I wouldn't be against it. I think there's a clash of personalities maybe when you do it, but otherwise, dude, it's the same with putting Punk with him. They're both great on the microphone. It would work really well, and I'd love to see what Heyman could do with Seth Rollins.
Absolutely, yeah. To be honest, I think that'd be quite an interesting pairing, to be honest, because I mean Rollins is a good promo, but I think, to be honest, I wouldn't mind him seeing have the wise man by his side, and I just think that be something different. It could be interesting. I don't think it's going to happen, by the way, for people that are watching, but we should throw out the curveball in there because I think that would be a big shock factor. And hey,
I think it would
go on.
I was going to say, I think it'd be another repackaging of Seth Rollins because, you know, he's been through so many over the years. This would be a time for him to give up the over-elaborate costumes and just go back to being almost like corporate Seth Rollins. Do you know what I mean? Just going back to being all about business.
Absolutely. And I think that's something I think Seth's character needs at this point. I think he should transition. He's the next guy to turn heel, in my opinion.
He's dropped the nickname as well, hasn't he? They've got rid of the Freakin. It's just Seth Rollins again. I think so. I think I just remember there's a video on it about it today. Don't get me wrong. I am actually really happy about that because I was never overly keen with it about the Freakin because let's be anyway. There's one F word you want in the middle there, and that's the one they're not going to use. And so I'm just glad it's gone back to being Seth Rollins. I think that's what they come out with today.
It's a bit goofy. I've always found it a bit goofy, but I was willing to always accept it because Seth is a bit goofy in his current gimmick, but he makes it work. But I think that gimmick is, you know, the song's still over with the crowd. Is still fantastic in ring. There's no argument with that. But I feel like there's a bit of a tweener role going with him right now, and I wouldn't mind this thing going fully to the heel side. And hey, look, again, I don't think it's going to happen, but hey, we spoke about John Cena potentially aligning with The Rock before Elimination Chamber, and look what happened. So if we say
I'll be
it now,
clipping this for a compilation later on, do you know what I mean? In about 6 weeks' time.
We'll have to wait and see. But we mentioned the name John Cena. Let's get into our chat. Jonesy then with the question then, is it a mistake for John Cena's first heel promo to likely be in Raw in Belgium, and any alternative ideas on what to do in Belgium with Cena instead?
Can I go first on this one? This is purely for geographical purposes because he is shooting a film in Hungary. Hungary is really close to Belgium. It's the reason why it's happening in Belgium. It's the only way it's going to happen. That's why he's not been on TV, because he's shooting a film. A quick flight to Belgium from Hungary is a couple of hours. He does a stint on Raw. He flies back again. This is purely what it's for.
It makes 100% sense when you say that. I was not aware that he was still doing that film in Hungary. So, yeah, that makes perfect logic.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what the last thing I heard he was doing. So that's why I believe it was going to be in Belgium.
Absolutely. But for me, the other reason I think that it's actually a good destination to do it. Have you heard the American crowds recently? Let's go Cena. Cena sucks. Everyone's just chanting for Cena. It's not going to get the full heel reaction at the minute that I think WWE are looking for, where I think a European crowd is more likely to buy into it. You watch when WWE, particularly, I'm biased here. When they go to the UK, for example, you know, you see like London at the O2, the people that people are supposed to
We're the best. We are the best crowds.
We dive into it. We don't. Okay, we'll always sing our Bailey song, whatever she's doing. We'll always sing our
exactly
song. It's like the national anthem at this point. But with John Cena in Europe, I think everyone buys into it. Everyone's going to boo. Everyone's going to give the reaction that they want. So that's why I think it could be the perfect place for it. And obviously, when you look at the rest of the card, I think that this is also a good place. It just adds a bit of extra prestige to this Raw in Belgium.
That man has promised us a WrestleMania, so he's already in my bad books if we don't get one, because he said, I'm here to bring WrestleMania to London, and if it doesn't happen, John Cena, you and me have got problems.
He was turning heel long before he did Elimination Chamber, long before. Yeah, let's go into a couple of pre-questions we had. So shout to Aries, by the way, for this in before we went live. This was thrown in actually yesterday, so thank you for that. Do you think Eddie Edwards and Alicia Edwards will appear in NXT as part of the NXT and TNA partnership at some point? I don't see why not. I mean, we've had Moose recently, we've had JDC, so it feels inevitable that we'll probably get Eddie Edwards and Alicia at some point.
Yeah, I mean, dude, they've been the partnerships for 3 years, so if and when is basically, I think, the point right now, and obviously with Moose just facing Obafemi for that for the NXT title, I'm sure Eddie and Alicia will be over at some point.
I'm sure they will be indeed. It'll be interesting how they'll be used. But Eddie Edwards and Alicia are stables of TNA as well. So I think certainly it's almost it's if. It's not if, so it's when. It's when, not if. Exactly. And Richard, it's been a long time since we had Richard JR in the house. So he asked a pre-question as well yesterday. So do you think that Alicia Edwards will be the new TNA Knockouts champion beating Masha Slamovich at TNA Rebellion 2025 pay-per-view? Now, first off, I'm unaware if that match has been made for Rebellion, so I'm going to say that on the record already. I know Sacrifice is this week, but those interested in Sacrifice, planning on doing it as Shorts prediction. It's probably the best you'll get out of me for this one. However, I know Alicia Edwards and Masha were. It is this Friday, so I've got to get on it tomorrow, I think. Alicia and Masha are going to have been seen before, tag team partners. Masha's now been a Knockouts champion for time, been quite a while she's been champion. I can see Alicia getting a shot at some point. If she wants to get the shot, though, I don't think she'd be the one that would defeat Masha.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think it's... I don't know. I think Masha, they've just come off a Jordan Grace great run. I think they'd like to give Masha the same sort of run, and I don't know how many title defenses she's into at the minute, but I still think Masha would retain at the minute.
Same, I do indeed. We'll go back into the comments then, and it's good to see we've got a lot of people in the house. So thank you all very, very much here for your questions. We're going to dive in and mix it up a little bit. So we've got a lot of Jonesy ones there as well. So feel free, we will be popping back to those as well. Anthony's in the house. Anthony, hope you are doing well. Thank you for joining us. Ask the question. Honestly, I believe Heyman is going to turn on Roman, and Roman's going to bring in a wise man like maybe Rikishi. Could you see Roman actually going for a different wise man if he didn't have Paul Heyman?
No, I don't think there's no one up there that could replace Paul Heyman. I think anyone after that would feel almost inferior, or it'd be like using Robert Stone, anyone after Paul Heyman. So I just can't see it happening. No disrespect to Robert Stone, I just don't think there's anyone else on the caliber of Paul Heyman that could replace him.
I agree. I would actually be interested in Roman going solo if he's not with Paul Heyman, but I do understand that he's had his wise men. He does like someone to point him in the right direction. It's almost as if Roman without, you could see before Paul Heyman came back, was a bit reckless in places on the return after SummerSlam. So I can understand the idea of looking for a different wise man, but I think if Paul Heyman was to break the trust, I can't see Roman trusting anyone else to fill the role.
If anything, Roman's actions are probably forcing Heyman's hand, because if he's not going to listen to the wise man, if he's going to carry on doing these reckless and poor decisions in terms of everything that's going on, maybe the wise man doesn't want to be around him anymore because he's not listening to him. So, there is these, there's all little tiny bits that you can feed off that can possibly lead to Heyman going to a different side.
Certainly indeed. Aries here with another question. Do we think the new NXT faction, I'm not going to read all the names there for us, but the new NXT group versus the system would be a good match? I mean, technically it could be. Every good match, though, for me needs a story to make it make sense, especially this one here would do. This group is very new in NXT and they're looking to take over, but I'm not quite clicking with them just yet.
No, I'm currently like... Their introduction, fine. They attacked, I think it was the tag team champions. They attacked Obafemi, great. The following week on NXT, they attacked Robert Stone. That's not an impact. That's, do you know what I mean? That's essentially you walked in the door, found the first guy you could beat up, and literally, because he's in an office right by the front door. So I'm like, it's pointless. And then, obviously they attacked Javon Evans. So, yeah, sure, no one's safe, but dude, I need a bit more substance than just, let's just attack random people.
Rollins is a bit of retribution for me, but keep that in mind. We might talk about retribution a bit more later in this stream. We may have a question about them. Pierre for joining us says, can I say something? Just because DX are booking WWE doesn't mean everything is perfect. One of the bad booking decisions we've had is the title reign of Shinsuke Nakamura, and thank God it's over. I have to agree that this has been quite poorly handled, quite poorly booked. I was quite thankful that Shinsuke dropped the title last Friday on SmackDown back to LA Knight.
Yes. Let's be honest, Shinsuke has not been booked well for many years, ever since they kind of botched the AJ. For me, since they botched the AJ Shinsuke Nakamura match at WrestleMania, I kind of think that Shinsuke has been in a downward spiral, and they throw us hopes, like glimmer of hopes, like they put the IC title on him, and then the IC title wasn't defended on a pay-per-view for about 18 months. So, that doesn't really bode well. I'll be honest, I texted you this the other day. I would be very surprised if Shinsuke Nakamura is still in WWE within the next 18 months, because at the minute, I think he's just I hate to say it, but he's almost jobber. And I think, honestly, if he wants to go out, he's getting to that age where I feel like he should be going somewhere else and finishing his career on a high, because at the minute his booking in WWE is not the one. I could see him going back to New Japan and doing something there and finishing his career, because his booking has just not been the best.
To be honest, I feel like he's checked out. That's the vibe I've been getting a little bit with everything.
Anyone would be, with the amount of times they've changed his character. Like when they did the whole manga anime cartoon thing, I was like, this is really great. And then he was doing the Mist, and then he wasn't winning matches, and it was kind of like, what's the point in booking him as this cartoon heel? And then he loses, and it was just, and then ever since now, he's just guy that loiters in the background of people's promos.
Yeah, which is just a bit strange as well. I've not been a fan of the title reign. Obviously, I know that you speak of this as well. I know there's a report that's come out as well that suggested that I think his contract's not going to be renewed. I want to say it's PWN or PW Insider.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That came out about a day or two after your message, but obviously,
wow.
Yeah, interesting.
I didn't mean to will it into reality. It's just it was my personal feelings.
The thing is, neither of us wish anyone out of a job, obviously, but at the same time, you can see where you're coming from.
I just think he deserves better.
He does deserve better. I think that Shinsuke hasn't been booked to his potential for quite a long time, unfortunately. We'll go back into actually quickly going to quickly say hello to Eric Douglas. Eric, thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well. And ask the question here: what teams do you think Liv and Raquel will defend against at WrestleMania? Previously, I had suggested Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross being the potential team, but I'd like to know your thoughts, because there are a lot of women's tag teams out there that could be getting a shot for these tag team titles.
I mean, it depends on, I don't think these titles make the Mania card, so I think that, if anything, they'll probably do you remember when Aleister Black and Ricochet were a tag team, and they had that year they had NXT, SmackDown and Raw tag team title shots? And I think it would just kind of be the reverse. I think they'll end up defending these titles on Raw, Stand and Deliver possibly, and SmackDown over Mania weekend. I don't think they make it onto any of the cards. Well, I don't even think they make it onto Stand and Deliver, to be honest with you. So I think they'll just defend them in a couple of singles matches. Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, I believe they're the tag team from NXT. Maybe Sol Ruka and Zarya, because they've been hyping them two up recently. I think it's just gonna be any one of them. And again, it sucks. I really want Liv to be on the WrestleMania card, but I can't see it happening, and it's just my worst nightmare coming true with Liv Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, I have a similar feeling when it comes to this, unfortunately. Hang on, just have to
technical difficulties.
There is a couple of technical difficulties. I will pre-warn people that there is a chance that I might disappear for a couple of minutes, but let's hope that doesn't happen. But what I will say quickly in response to your question is that I mean, there are a lot of teams out there. You could throw somebody together, but I agreed with something you strongly said there, which is I do not believe that the women's tag team title will be defended at WrestleMania either. Funnily enough, Raquel is going for the women's Intercontinental Championship for starters, but also I have a feeling that there's so many matches that need to be put on the card that I have this feeling we're going to get a different direction. And I think with intergender matches being a part of WWE 2K25, who's playing the game already? Hey, anyone out there? It's not me.
Nope.
Hopefully eventually, but not me at the moment. But still, I think we're going to be getting the White Six versus the Judgment Day. It could be Team Alexa versus Team Liv. And, there's a reason Dominic keeps saying we need another member of the Judgment Day. And Finn keeps saying no. I think that's the reason why, because I have a feeling that when the White Six come to town, the Judgment Day are outnumbered by the White Six by one male member. So they'll have to look for someone randomly on the roster to try and find
I know who that male member might be.
I have a funny feeling as well. It's not. I don't think it's going to be Ludwig Kaiser, though, even though Dominic was talking to him on Monday Night Raw this past week.
It's Demon Finn Balor. He's doing double job.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I had a feeling that they might go and turn their attention to Karrion Kross.
Do you know what? It's possible, but like for some reason, I saw it. Where did I see this? I think you. I don't know. You might have sent this to me. Karrion Kross, whoever he's interacted with, has had the same hairstyle as whoever he's been with. So, like the whole time he was dealing with the Miz, he had the same sort of hairstyle. Now he's dealing with AJ, and Karrion Kross has got the long, straight, perfect hair. And I'm like, what is this? Is this some sort of a fruition here of what Karrion Kross's booking is? I mean, I wouldn't be against it. Look, they need to start doing something with Karrion Kross. Why not put him in there, man?
Would not be against it at all if it was to go down, but we'll have to wait and see. Good news for those that want to just know the issue. I might as well share the issue. As I said, there's been some technical issues. Basically, the Mac has not been charging, so I've been rapidly losing battery, but thankfully, I've made a change, and it looks like for now, it's charging. So it looks like I'm going to be sticking around. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm going to stay with everything as it is. But I do have to touch the questions. So I will dive into another one. We're going to go back to Jonesy because Jonesy has thrown a few questions in before we went live. So we're going to get these up through the show. Could AEW benefit from creating their own WrestleMania season that becomes known as peak season for them? And how would they go about it? Now, you could argue there's many parts in the calendar that AEW would call their WrestleMania season. Obviously, Double or Nothing is their first ever show that they have, so some people associate that one with it. I was always an all-out guy. I always used to think that was the biggest show of the year, particularly when you go back to when Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson debuted. I always felt, it's a real special time. Grand Slam was around that as well, in New York around that period as well, so just felt, what's a bit of a special period. But then, of course, let's start getting a bit biased here. All in the last couple of years when it was going to Wembley, Wembley Stadium is huge, and it did feel like that was a special time period. And now AEW's kind of calling it's their biggest show of the year. With, of course, it being in Dallas this year, also a stadium show. I think they could benefit from it because people know that this is the hot time. But I think AEW also have tried to play this idea of that, well, we're always hot with what we're doing. You shouldn't want to have a tune out season. People tune in for WrestleMania season, the casuals, and a lot of them disappear again, and that's when it's just you and me sitting around talking about pro wrestling, and that's it. So I mean, it has that vibe about it. Do you know what I mean? So what do you feel about it? Do you reckon that AEW would benefit from it? And if so, what is their current WrestleMania season?
I mean, for me, I think it's all out, all in season. The problem I have is that they do them one weekend after each other. And on top of that, depending on where SummerSlam is booked, do you know what I mean? One of them alternately might come a cropper and might be going up against SummerSlam. Now that SummerSlam is 2 nights as well, this kind of scarpered their plans. But I mean, there is no real perfect time. I mean, if you want to take advantage of a time when WWE aren't busy, December. But the problem is, it's December. Everyone's doing stuff for the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, whatever. Money's kind of tight. So it's hard to go and sit there and put on this high-profile wrestling show. And then obviously, because it's the States as well, weather becomes a factor. Because, if it snows out there, it don't just snows. Do you know what I mean? Becomes the North Pole 2.0. So there is that's if you want to go by a calendar point, that's probably the best time for them to take advantage of WWE doing nothing. Otherwise, I would stick to what they currently do, which is mid to end August, peak summertime, weather's great, you can do these stadium shows, you can fill them with 90,000 people or however many. All out, all in is, again, is my wife just said a minute ago, for me is their WrestleMania. I just don't think they should do both. I think they should just do one or the other.
The good news is this year is that it's going to be spread out. I believe that All In, as it's in Dallas, is taking place in July, and I believe that All Out will be in September as usually advertised. So yeah, and of course I think weather related, and I think the stadium aspect as well. Maybe they probably
do you know what
the chance of filling it in July.
July probably is the best bet because WWE normally run SummerSlam in August and WrestleMania is in April, and then it's all like B category shows aside from maybe Money in the Bank that will come in the space of those 4 months or however long it is. So July seems to be kind of almost the perfect time because, again, same thing, weather's nice, so you can go to multiple destinations across the country, so you're not limited to where you can run that show, which is why, same reasons why WWE are trying to move WrestleMania and push it back 2 weeks, and probably will go back another 2 weeks next year or so because they can make more cities viable for them so they can go to other places, possibly do one in London. Do you know what I mean?
I would not be surprised in the next 3 to 4 years if WrestleMania permanently becomes a May show.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think that will be the case. So if that's the case, then AEW needs to stay clear of that. But then maybe there's a gap for them, and then maybe Revolution is the place to do it. But WrestleMania season for WWE, it starts in January, technically. So
Because
you would argue then maybe
just to play off what you said there, then you could move the calendar round and move Money in the Bank to March. So then you've got Mania in January, Rumble in January, Chamber in February, Money in the Bank in March, something else in April, Roadblock, or you know what I mean, Fastlane, whatever they want to do, because it's the road to WrestleMania, and then do Mania in May, and rejiggle the calendar like that.
Interesting. That's very interesting. This has turned into a WWE question, Jonesy. Not kind of what you were hoping for there, but I think
July.
I think yeah. We're going with July. We think July is the time, it's the place, and we think All In is the way they go, because that's the show. They do go all in. One more Jonesy question, then we'll go back down the pecking order for the minute. What would your reaction have been to LA Knight, Logan Paul, Jacob Fatu, AJ Styles, Joe Hendry, and Dirty Dom winning the Royal Rumble instead of Jey Uso? Honestly, I'm not sure I would have been happy with any compared to Jey Uso. That even includes Jacob Fatu, who currently is probably my favorite wrestler. I'm fascinated by Jacob Fatu every time he comes through the curtain. The guy is incredible. But I just think it's slightly too soon for Jacob Fatu. Another 12 months, I think, that could make this guy the guy. How do you feel when you compare all these other names compared to Jey Uso? Because they're like all still the next tier, rather than saying your Punks, your Rollins, your Reigns.
If it had been 12 months ago, LA Knight would have worked, or even the year before that, because your LA Knight had been on a high period until like Jey Uso and the Bloodline really took off. Logan Paul, I think that would have destroyed the building, because I think people would have destroyed it brick by brick if Logan Paul would have won it. So I just said no on Logan Paul. Jacob Fatu, although again, same as you, would have loved it, think it's too early for him. AJ Styles, wouldn't have personally had a problem with AJ Styles winning it. Joe Hendry, yeah. Do you really want a TNA guy that's not on your books main event in WrestleMania? I don't think it would have ever happened. So, in terms of all of them, AJ's the only one I could have realistically seen winning it and been happy with. I'm still not sold on Jey Uso. For the minute, Gunther is the only one carrying that world title match for me. I've like Jey Uso in March now. In the 2 month or the month and a half it's been since he's won the Rumble, or even just over a month, he's done nothing to sell me on this match, and that was my problem when he won that Royal Rumble.
Arguably, being stuck with Alpha Academy doesn't help, I would say, but
very true.
Yeah, I mean, looking at agreed with a number of the ones you said there. For me, LA Knight would be the next best one, because of the fact I think he's the most over with the catchphrase, the promos. He's got, I think, the most with the crowd appeal behind him. AJ Styles, for me, look, is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like, I think phenomenal is literally just, you plaster it everywhere. He's incredible over the last 20 years, in what arguably my favorite wrestler alongside CM Punk. I just feel like with AJ, as much as I want to see one more run as champion, I don't see the same promo appeal and the fan appeal for AJ that was there 5 years ago. I put my bias to the side, even though if you ask me to say, what do you want to watch, an AJ Styles match or a Jey Uso match? It's AJ Styles every day of the week, plus twice on Sunday. But when I look at the appeal is there for Jey Uso. I completely agree with Joe Hendry. Can't do that. Dirty Dom is one we haven't talked about. Dominic Mysterio.
What did you say, Dom?
Dom, for me, he's actually one.
I would have loved it. I would have loved it.
I would have loved it, but for all the wrong reasons. It is kind of the thing is, Dirty Dom, out of all of them, is the same thing as Jey Uso, but with the fact it's a
reverse.
Yeah, it's complete reverse. It's the heel reaction rather than the face reaction. Jey Uso is organically over, and we have cried for organic superstars for about 30 years. Certainly me and you have been doing it for 30 years. I know Jonesy's probably been doing it as well. I look at all those people that I remember was like so over, and I wanted to become world champion, and they'd already peaked by the time it came to winning a world title. Jericho had peaked by the time he became a world champion, which is why the first time didn't work. It had to take another couple of years for him to get another run for it to then work. It's probably 2008 was his best run with the title, arguably, you could say. RVD was ready like in 2001, 2002. The guy was buried to Triple H, and it just didn't work out. And, you know, there's all these ones we go through the years. Dolph Ziggler, for example, best cash in, but Jesus, I mean, come on, like they didn't do what they should have done with Dolph Ziggler. He should have been the next Shawn Michaels, arguably. So you go for all these names, and that's there with it, and you think, well, hang on, Jey Uso right now is organically so over. It feels the right place, it feels the right time. Granted, I'm going to agree with you. It's not the best build to WrestleMania, but that's why it should have main event. But the thing is that if you take the story part out of it for the minute, if you look at the reactions, look at the start of Raw this past week. How many people in MSG had left their seats to be where Jey Uso is? Now, you could argue and say, you get a chance to be on TV. They do that for anyone. They go out there and, I don't know, pick your least favorite wrestler and stick him in the spot, and then boom, right, yeah, they'd still go and get themselves on TV. But they're all yeeting. You can feel there's an energy. There's something different about it. There was a point where everyone wanted two yeets with the song being replayed the second time. Now, as fun as it was the first time, I will agree with anyone that would say this. It will grate on me if you keep doing it twice every show. Like that's too much. It's overkill. However, right now, like Jey Uso is just at this magic spot where it feels like it's the right time. If you delay it, it's going to pass him by, and he's going to be like these other ones that just isn't ever going to get there. If you had done it before, it was too soon, arguably. Now is the right time. How can I put this? The story of Jey Uso has been going on since 2021. Arguably 2020, he was the right-hand man for Roman Reigns with the story at the Clash of Champions. It wrong for he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in 2021, and since then he's been slowly growing as a performer. He had the long tag team title run with Jimmy, and then once that broke away, it then organically festered into a babyface run. He was testing the waters this time a year ago. Backlash, he was testing going for a world title. Didn't work out. Everyone thought he should have won Money in the Bank. There was uproar when he didn't. It again just carried on. Won the IC title. Was it the best match? No, but everyone was behind him. It's almost a thing of like the fan appeal was there. So let's just let it roll and let's just see where it goes.
I think for me, now that you've just brought up all the information, I think I know what my problem with this is now, is that it's the wrong opponent. If they'd have done this when Roman was champion, this would by far be a bigger deal. If Jey had won the Rumble when Roman was champion and he was going to face Roman at WrestleMania, that for me would have ultimately been the bigger babyface Daniel Bryan Kofi Mania moment that you want to see Jey Uso win. When he has a world title match against Gunther the week before he wins the Rumble and he loses, I've got no interest in seeing him lose again. Sure, they're trying to play it off like, oh yeah, no, I know I can beat you, but you haven't even beaten him in a non-title match. He's dominated you the whole way, and this is my problem with it, is that he's not doing anything to convince me that he's going to win. He, for me, his most over aspect is his entrance. We've talked about this so many times that his match with Jimmy, his brother from WrestleMania last year, we voted it. Well, I had it as my worst match of the year. You can't go to the biggest show of the year and just do super kicks and think that's okay. It doesn't work. And like he's, I hate to say it, but like I don't enjoy watching Jey Uso matches at the minute because it's just copy paste and repeat, and I'm like. I'm kind of done with seeing Jey Uso wrestle now. And now the fact that, like I said, Gunther is the one carrying this for me. Gunther is cutting quality promos. He's playing the best heel. For me, Gunther is carrying Jey Uso, and Gunther is making it the reason why I want to watch this match. And that shouldn't be how it should be. Like I said, if this was Roman, and there was like, do you know what I mean? There was the whole that their family, Roman is the biggest heel in the company. Do you know what I mean? Jey is trying to dethrone it because of and like I said, you've got all those things to play off of. I just can't get behind him, man.
I understand that. I understand. And the thing is, Jey Uso was like Marmite right now. You either love him or you don't. And I can understand the Roman Reigns thing. But just to say quickly with Roman Reigns, Jey Uso was the first person to pin Roman Reigns. I know it was in a tag team match, but he was the first person to do so for like 4 years. They have been building this moment, this story for Jey Uso for a long time. And the thing is that I completely agree from an in-ring perspective when it comes to Gunther and Jey Uso. There's no comparison. Gunther's wiped the floor with him with the in-ring ability. I understand. I'm much more invested in watching the Gunther match than the Jey Uso match. But you look at merch sales, you look at the commercial standpoint, you look where the celebrities are. That's where it's all. And that's
from a business point, he's a dream.
Exactly. And he's been called the mascot. And you know what? He is the mascot, and he's playing the mascot very, very well. Is people going to turn on Jey Uso? Yes. When are you going to do it? Probably some point in the next 6 to 12 months. So when should you put a world title on him? Now. Now is the time. Give him his run. And then once the experiment is finished with, you can then go back to where you want to turn Jay heel. You can do all sorts of things. Let's not forget the story potential you can have with Jay, by the way, as a world champion. You've got the likes of Sami Zayn, for example, who wants to be a world champion. Does that create friction with their friendship? You've got the likes of people on Raw right now with, Roman Reigns is a SmackDown guy, but with a draft, he could be over to Raw. They can rekindle that. They can go back to that because Roman's going to want to go back to the mountaintop.
I mean, but that's what I mean. So if and he probably will end up winning at WrestleMania, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But all the exciting stuff is going to come after the biggest show of the year.
Yeah,
and you're trying to book WrestleMania, and the fact that you like the suggestions you've come out with, they're so much more intriguing and so much more interesting in terms of a story aspect. But I've got to wait for him to win a title for someone else before we get those story narratives. And that's kind of what... And Jay can deliver promos when he feels like there is a physical or like an emotional connection to it. Gunther is just a guy that beats him at the minute. I'm not getting nothing from Jay in terms of emotion. And I think it's another reason why I'm just so... it's just Jey Uso versus Gunther at the end of the day.
I mean, it shouldn't main event. That's the big thing. It should not main event. It shouldn't open either, in my opinion. I think it should be
they shouldn't have turned around and said the winners will go on to main event WrestleMania for either of the Rumbles. Yet what did they do? They announced it.
They did. And will Eva do it? No. Neither will Charlotte and Tiffany. Leo in the house. How we doing? Well, Leo, thank you for joining us. Do you think Dom and Liv will have a trick up their sleeve for Finn Balor and will turn on him next Monday and cost him the title? I think if they cost him the title, I think it will be accidentally on. Well, it's like it's on purpose, but looks like an accident. I don't think it's going to be an actual turn at this point. Like I said, I'm sticking with Wyatt 6 versus Judgment Day for WrestleMania. Yeah, I think the Judgment Day is on borrowed time. I do think questioning and introduce a new member. A new member's coming in, but I don't think that will happen either until the Wyatt 6 stuff actually starts. And for those that are wondering, well, hang on, Wyatt 6 are on SmackDown, Judgment Day's on Raw. Liv and Raquel are women's tag team champions, so they can go on either show. So, and the WWE doesn't care about the draft. So, yeah, I think this simply is going to get the Bron Breakker and Finn Balor stuff finished with for the time being. But I do think there was an aspect that Dom is going to try and help, but will screw up.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah, it's going to be what costs him. Like, it's a way to protect Finn so Finn doesn't take a loss.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Pierre recently has turned heel on these streams, I've noticed. Very much so. Very much so.
Is he John Cena?
He might be. We can't see him. So that's one thing for sure. Pierre, are you in disguise? It says on another bad booking ideal, HBK is making last night's main event between Stephanie and Julia Tyler versus title. Winner takes all. Let me follow that on. And now Stephanie's a double champion. I can honestly say that last night wrestling is dead and NXT is dead because we have a double women's champion. I couldn't disagree more.
Dude, I mean... Look, the problem was it was predictable booking, which is why it was a Tuesday night special. It's why we said this when we did like our makeshift predictions for it last week. It's the TV special. Don't expect any shockers. I said, my shocker was that Fraxian would win the TNA tag team titles. Long shot, but that was going to be my only surprise. I was not expecting Moose to win. And dude, we all know that Julia's injured, so one of them had to win the title. That's why their hands were forced. I mean, sure, you could have maybe put the title back on Roxanne, but she's got a thing going on with Bayley, so she wouldn't have been a viable option. Cora Jade, still not ring fit by the looks of it. There is no credible person apart from Jordan Grace, and I think it's too soon for her to be winning a title. So Stephanie Vacour is and was the right answer, and dude, I'm glad she's double champion. Stephanie Vacour is a badass, and whether she has to wrestle 2, 3, or 4 times, if she wrestled 5 matches in one night on an NXT pay-per-view, I would watch every single one and love it.
Absolutely, she's phenomenal in ring. I am loving her work right now. Look, Pierre, you're not enjoying this, and I understand that, but it's a case of like NXT just said that Julia's injured. They've had to make an audible. Zara is another name you could throw out there, but she's just not been booked to the level since she first came in that she would be in the conversation either. Pierre goes on to say, I want Stephanie to vacate the women's North American title. Maybe they do a ladder match. That's something they could possibly do if they want to, but I don't see why Stephanie wouldn't hold on to both titles. And look, it's a scenario that I don't think WWE would have done if Julia was fit. But as she's not, Stephanie's got the title, and I think Stephanie has proven on a very quick scale that she is up to the task of leading that division. She is going to be. I see Stephanie winning a Royal Rumble, and all the sorts of things in the future. I think she's got future.
100%.
She's got the sky's the limit. Is pretty much what I'm trying to say.
For me, her and Jordan Grace and Julia are the complete packages in terms of wrestling, presentation, and just everything, man. And I'm the same as you. I think Stephanie Victoria is going to go on to be like the biggest thing in WWE in the future. Like, she's just honestly like my second or third favorite female wrestler after like Chelsea Green, obviously. But yeah, man, it's good. And the good thing about it is that you can use Stephanie Victoria. You can use it as an excuse for Stephanie to lose one of them titles where she can lose one if she has to defend them twice on one night. That's fine. That makes sense in the booking. You can and obviously this is a perfect opportunity to build a new heel, because at the minute, the biggest heels are Perez and Cora Jade. They need to build someone else up. And you've got Zari and Sol Ruka tagging up together. Jada Parker may be the next best thing to come out with that North American title.
She's the one because she says she's coming for the gold. The way that she spoke to Mickie James was that she was going to go for the top title. I personally would like it to be the North American, because that's something I can see. One thing I would say is that if I don't even call it a negative, but Stephanie record for me was always above the North American title. I think that era should be for the Jada Parkers, Kalani Jordans, the Sol Rukas, the ones that are not quite in the top tier of the, I don't know, the indie darlings, the cherry picked, ready made talents that have been stolen from Stardom and from all different places. Because Stephanie Becker, Julia, Jordan Grace, they're all main roster ready. They're there. Yep. You could put them on Raw and SmackDown, and they would flourish anyway. It's a formality, and it's just about exposing them to the WWE audience, so they're familiarized with the NXT audience. So when they're called up, they have a bit of a fan base already behind them, because not everybody in WWE watches everything else, but NXT tends to have that hardcore demographic that does know who they are from other places. So that's why they bring them there first. But when you look at the homegrown audience, those are the ones that at the moment would benefit more with that mid-con title.
I wouldn't be surprised if Vakor holds both of them titles till A, Julia's fit, and then B, they make her defend them both on the same night, and she loses them both on the same night. That would be like Julia. I don't know how long Julia's going to be out for, but I wouldn't be against seeing Stephanie Vakor be a double champ. No, I lie. Double champ for like 6 to 8 months in NXT is. You've just brought in the North American Championship. You don't really want to tie up the women's titles again. So, dude, she can easily lose one of them ones to a screwy finish or wherever. There's always creative ways to protect someone in a loss. But I can see them doing it and making a double champ for like the next 6 months.
Here's what I'd do, because this is what I think will happen. I don't think Stephanie's going to be long-term North American champion anymore. I think they've done what they need to get the title on her. Next will be to get the North American title off of her. In the meantime, you put her in a multi-person match, for example, triple threat
ladder match.
Or ladder match. She's not involved in the decision. She's not pinned to the mat. Therefore, it makes no problem for what happens. But then you can put the question, if she has to defend both belts, can she retain both later on? Is it too much for her? Well, she retains the NXT Women's title later in the night, because, of course, that's what she's going to be moving forward. The division's not dead.
That's her story now. Her story now. Her story now is she has to carry the burden of being double champion, and she has to carry these responsibilities defending both titles.
Absolutely. NXT is not dead. It is one of the best brands currently in WWE, and the women's division arguably is the best in wrestling. I'm sorry to say, but it is. Leo says, what is a legitimate plan for Liv and Raquel as their tag team champions? Unfortunately, it seems they haven't got a build up for anyone to face them at Mania. The division is dead. As I mentioned, I think this is the problem you see with the idea of doing potentially the White Six and the Judgment Days, because it's not so obvious in a way. But if you look at the Royal Rumble, Alexa Bliss was eliminated by who? Liv Morgan, and Alexa Bliss was not happy about it. If you look when it comes to Elimination Chamber, Liv Morgan again got the sneaky pinfall. You got the Dirty Evils from Alexa. The teaser started with her in the White Six. I think it's coming, but there is other teams you can throw into the mix. I mean, obviously, you've got Nia Jackson, Candice LeRae. I think that's something they could throw themselves into if they wanted to, although it's heel versus heel. You've got the likes of, as well, perhaps Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. If there's no room to defend the Women's United States Championship on WrestleMania, that's another place you can do it for. So there are ways and means around it.
Yeah, great, man. It's finding the right opponent, but there isn't that many babyface oppositions at the minute, and I think that's the problem. So Alexa Bliss probably is the right person. Whether Nikki Cross is that tag team partner, we'll soon see.
Absolutely. Just to say, by the way,
I mean, dude, where's Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler, by the way? Because I ain't seen neither of them two in weeks.
A long time. I feel this might be a repackage since on his release. That feels to be something that could be what's going on there, but we'll have to wait and see. Apologies, by the way, because we know we're massively behind on comments at the moment. We're doing our best to catch up, so we will do our best. Steve, is it possible for to turn the superstar organically into a bad guy from being a babyface, like you do with a bad guy organically turn to being into a babyface? Absolutely. Bret Hart is a fine example in 1997 with Stone Cold Steve Austin, which of course led to the infamous double turn in the submission match. I understand it's a very old school reference, but it has been done.
The best one.
It is the best one. That's why I went to it. But there is obviously other ones out there. I mean, Ziggler and Del Rio successfully did it as well. There are plenty of times where I feel like the babyface can organically turn to a bad guy. Arguably, you could say that Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens
I was just about to say Drew.
Yeah, they kind of fell into the role. Seth arguably is going through it right now.
Yeah, because Punk is like so big at the minute, and the fact that he cost him in the chamber, he's like on the precipice there of just literally turning full heel.
Absolutely. And it's
the right baby face. That's the problem. Is you've got to have the right baby face for it to work.
I would agree with that. Certainly, it takes two to tango to make that connection work. There's a paradox with Canadian and European fans in general for WWE. They seem to cheer the bad guy and boo the babyface. I think that's what's going to happen with John. Interesting. I mean, it can happen. I think Belgium's going to play ball.
Yeah, agreed, man. Belgium will boo the hell out of John Cena. Like, if you're going to have him and Cody in the ring at the same time, he's going to get booed the hell out of that building.
I think as well they're going to protect John by having The Rock come out first, and I think The Rock's going to play with the crowd. He'll start with it being, let's do Singing with The Rock, and he'll say stuff that will get them off trail, and then I think they'll bring John out afterwards. I know that's not.
I reckon it'll be typical heel promo where he's not even in the ring; he's out the back on a video on the big. He's on the big screen because he doesn't want to come out and face Cody. Chicken.
It doesn't want to. I agreed to come here to Belgium, but I didn't say I was going to come into the ring and talk to you people.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
John, you changed, man. You changed. By the way, what did we think about the Revolution show? I think I haven't seen Revolution, Pierre, so I can't comment.
From what I've seen of it, most of it was really good. I've seen, like, obviously the poor finish to the main event, and look, man, there is no such thing as a perfect pay-per-view. This was pretty close from what I hear. Like, I've seen most of the stuff. Like, I've seen like the cage match. I've seen Mariah May versus Toni Storm, 2 really good matches. Everything else in between, really good as well. But ultimately, it's what happens when you've got Dean Ambrose, who's like early 40s, Edge late 40s, Christian late 40s, early 50s. Do you know what I mean? They're all old dudes, man, and it's like you've got no one in there. It's like you're trying to put 3 old guys to work, and it's like, dude, at some point you got to take them out the back with a shotgun and just put them out of their misery.
Fair play to that
in the nicest way possible.
Sounds like an old Yellow reference. Pierre,
exactly.
Ask me this question in a couple of days, and I'll be able to give you a better answer to it. Leo says, is Ashton Elegance ever going to be champion? Because I think she always loses, and it's only when it matters. She always loses when it matters. She lost twice for the Knockouts tag titles. Yeah, it's a weird one, because I thought when she would go to TNA, I thought that she would actually be winning gold, but it's not materialized. But surely her time will come.
you'd think they'd have. I'm the same boat as you. You'd have thought they'd have already done it by now, but the fact that they've brought Tessa Blanchard in kind of makes me think that the ship has sailed on that one. I think there may be a possible chance at some point, but again, Tessa Blanchard's there at the minute, and she's their number one female wrestler up there with Masha Slamovich.
Absolutely. Regardless of what anyone thinks about her, by the way, before our chat, sometimes gets very animated with her. So please do not do that. Jonesy, let's get you back in there. Who overachieved and underachieved compared to initial expectations going back to the original game show format of NXT? This is a really fun question. This is we've left this a little while because we personally wanted to get our thinking caps on for this one. And chat, feel free to join in with us on this one as well. I'll put us right to the fresh note at the bottom there. Honestly, for me, you look at the initial game show, had Wade Barrett, of course, who was the winner. We had Daniel Bryan, who was in there, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, Darren Young, David Otunga, Michael Tavier, and Skip Sheffield, who was later known as Ryback. That was the first group. We had obviously other ones that were in there, obviously like Loki, who was Caval, winner of season 2. Also the likes of, that was Husky Harris, who would later go on to be Bray Wyatt, of course, the late Bray Wyatt now. We had Michael McGillicuddy, who of course never eliminated from the Royal Rumble, was Curtis Axel in season 3 with the all-female cast with Caitlin and AJ Lee. So there's quite a host of people, Oksana as well, if we were to really go there. And of course, Titus O'Neil was involved in these as well. So of a host of names I've thrown at you there, who would you argue is overachieved and underachieved? I would argue, and this is going to be controversial, this answer for Jonesy, I think, probably for our chat as well. I'm going to say that Daniel Bryan overachieved because he was an indie darling who I think Vince McMahon would not have wanted to have been, the main event guy. I think he would have looked at him once and said, that's not a main eventer. But Daniel Bryan fought through, and eventually not only did he got fired after being on NXT originally from choking Justin Roberts, but he got himself back into the company, into a SummerSlam main event, got himself to the United States Championship, got himself a Money in the Bank win, and then all of a sudden became a world champion. And before you know it, and yes, no movement started, and before you know it, even though he wasn't meant to, he main evented and won the title at WrestleMania 30.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that because, like you said, he was just someone that shouldn't really have achieved what he said. Like that awesome package that they do. I think it's 30. It's the New Orleans one where he becomes champion. The one that they famously reference, like one of the best video packages they've ever done. Like with the Miz as his trainer, and they say that he shouldn't have achieved what he should have achieved, and to go on and become world champion, definitely overachieved. In terms of someone who I think majorly underachieved, Wade Barrett, guy won the first ever competition. Honestly, I was like, this guy's destined to be WWE champion at some point, and the fact that terrible booking, unfortunately, ends up costing him. Well, he should have been one of the top guys when the Nexus broke up. He should have been top heel at that point.
And he was for quite a period, but they just screwed it up after SummerSlam 2010, which, I mean, look, John Cena turned heel long before Elimination Chamber. Look, let's be honest here. I'm not so sure what they're going to do when it comes to with Wade Barrett. When you look back at the storytelling, he should have been the first ever UK world champion. It just never materialized, and unfortunately injuries got the best of him. So I tend to think I could agree with that answer to a certain degree. Another one you could say overachieved, AJ Lee, of course. She went on to be one of the longest reigning Divas champions of her time period. And just to give another one, I suppose, that would have underachieved. Interesting. I'll
tell you what.
Go on.
I'm going to add to another one that definitely overachieved was Husky Harris. That guy, honestly, should never have succeeded, and he turned his whole career around and has left a mark on wrestling history. And if anything, it's a toss-up between him and Daniel Bryan for best overachievers, because if you leave a mark on pro wrestling, especially in WWE, that's kind of special. If any, it's like they're both in the same situation, shouldn't have got to where they got to.
Certainly, I would agree with that indeed there. And obviously, all allegedly from a thumb to the eye to John Cena on a Raw episode, got him sent back to NXT for a couple of years, apparently is the gist. If you listen to Baron Corbin's interview with Chris Van Vliet.
I actually do have another one that failed miserably. Oh, underachieved miserably. Derek Bateman, EC3. Guy was in two seasons of the competition. Do you know what I mean? Had to leave, go to TNA to get himself over, became such a big name, and then came to WWE under the name of EC3 and just didn't work out for him. I think that's such a shame that never worked out for him.
Completely agree with that. That's a really good shout. Didn't even think of Bateman. And our last one for out there's Michael McGillicuddy, obviously the son of Mr. Perfect. Wasn't IC champion, but when you look at the legend is Mr. Perfect.
He was a Paul Heyman guy.
He was a Paul Heyman guy, but his career just never took the same trajectory, unfortunately. So I would put him in that area, I suppose.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Let's go back into some more questions that's coming there. We have here Leo says, I think that Ash should realistically beat Masha, but it might end up being Tessa Blanchard. Honestly, I don't want to see that, but I think Ash versus Masha would be something. So how would we book that? I mean, Ash needs to win matches. That's pretty much it at this point.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's all about dubs, isn't it? If you can't pick up a win, like, well, you never know unless they bring back what was the briefcase thing. You know, that might always be a thing if they do it for the women's division.
Absolutely, absolutely. Leo carries on with should Balor win Money in the Bank?
I mean, probably not. I think there's probably other people that. Money in the Bank has always been a thing that is there to elevate a mid-carder to main event, and Finn is arguably a main eventer, and it's like he doesn't need something. It depends on where his trajectory is going and whether they see him as a champion in the next 12 months, but I don't think so. I don't think he should.
I don't think he should either. I think that there are other people that are more high profile for that spot. A Bron Breakker, for example, would be a good shout in my opinion. I think a Jacob Fatu is someone that could be a good, those sort of people. I think would be there. LA Knight if he drops the US title and they want to push him to the next level, he's someone that could benefit from that as well. So those are the people I sort of have in mind currently.
I say that Finn Balor shouldn't do it. If Kevin Owens won it, I would be over the moon for it. I think this goes back to more about whose storybooking is more prominent and probably more fitting of winning Money in the Bank. And at the minute, Finn's story just doesn't need a Money in the Bank briefcase.
No, and KO can't get the job done in a regular match to get him a world title. A Money in the Bank briefcase would make a lot of sense. But I do agree with this, though. Live to win the Royal Rumble in 2026.
I hope.
I think that she would be a good shout. Now, I don't necessarily say she beats Bianca or Charlotte at WrestleMania 42. I don't know about that at this point, but I think Liv will win the Rumble because she has quite a success rate in Saudi Arabia. And I think that we think Sammy to win the men's Rumble. I think Liv could win the women's.
It'll be a long time overdue for Liv.
Absolutely, indeed. I like the fact that where Pierre said that he really enjoyed the steel cage match with Will Ospreay and Carl Fletcher. But again, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment if it's the best one ever.
I mean, it's good. The problem for me is I'm not. I'd say if you watch it, yes, it's a really good cage match. For me, like we've said so many times before, it's all about the story. Yes, I know they're former faction mates. When you watch it, Steve, you'll see the story elements to it. It is really good. I think there's ones out there I probably do love more than it, though.
Bret and Owen, 94, SummerSlam. It's hard to beat that one. It's very hard to beat that one. What did we think of the setup last night in the theatre of Madison Square Garden? He felt it was set was really beautiful for a cinema. And it was
felt very NXT.
It did, yeah. It was how can I put it? It was very compact. I don't think there was a lot of room around the ring, but I actually really enjoyed the setup. I thought it looked kind of cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed the way they had the screens, like they had the big one and then the second one angled on top. I thought that was really cool. Strange seeing the commentary table on the other side of the presentation. But I've been to a couple of indie shows in the UK here, and some of them have been in theatre halls where it's like you literally have one wall of seating and then there's nothing around the other three sides. It's a weird experience because it almost feels like you're watching a theatre play. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. How about the full WrestleMania season? Should be between the end of August to the beginning of November. AEW potentially have that for their schedule of a WrestleMania season. Go back to Jones's question earlier in the show. I mean, it's something that they could do. This is my issue with this though, and this is why WWE have this as one of the biggest lulls parts of the season, because sports starts around the start of September, October. We're talking NFL, we're talking NBA, we're talking, all that stuff. I think the US Open as well, with regards to the tennis as well, is around late August, start of September. So yeah, I just that's the problem, that the competition's quite fierce, and WWE usually feels it in the ratings at that point, and I think that so may AEW. So that's my problem with that. But you mentioned December before, and I'm not against the idea, because WCW used to have the Starrcade in December. That used to be their biggest show of the year, and they used to make it work. So hey, there's a wrestling audience out there, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, dude, still should rename Stand and Deliver to Starrcade, by the way.
So not. Pierre agrees with NXT regarding Gunther and Jey Uso. Doesn't feel that the feud has the same intensity in it. So it's good to see some agreement there for NXT. Mr. Sims UK says, I wasn't very happy about 2K25. My Rise wasn't working on Sunday in the update patch. There was an update patch and fixed it. It was good that it's fixed. That's always good to see indeed. Hope you enjoyed the game so far. Roy in house as well. We are not using Freakin anymore for Seth or Dirty with Dom. We're getting rid of the nicknames.
Dirty Dom will just be, literally, that'll be a t-shirt reference now. The only time they use that will be on a t-shirt. But I'm so glad they got rid of the Freakin for Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I was okay with it for Dom. I think it added a bit of the character element. I think Big is taken away from Bronson Reed, I read as well. So again, I was okay with that. But
just having a quick look on like a Google search about sports in America and their calendar start dates. So for the majority ones, so like the baseball, for example, baseball starts in late February, and ends in October. So you normally got the better, like the set of the series sets. What do they call it? The end of the baseball series that ends in October. College football, which is a big thing over there, starts just after Labor Day and runs through till December. NFL starts in September and runs through till February before obviously then. So where WrestleMania is kind of like a peak point, because like you get most of the eyes on it, because everything else, like for instance NBA mid-October start, NHL starts in October, so they literally fit it in like the off season for mostly every other sport. Sorry, not MLS. MLS is soccer. I just realised that's what I'm talking about. The baseball starts in late March or early April, runs to the end of September. So yeah, like they miss all like the major finals of every other sport where WrestleMania currently is.
There you go. They've got it worked out. They play the cards pretty well.
Yeah.
Sid in the house, hope you're doing well, Sid. I hope Roy was doing well also, by the way. Apparently his friend was unhappy when Jason won the Royal Rumble, wanted Punk to win. Asked us with who Paul Heyman will side with. You have to go to the start of the video for that. We talk about it for about 15 minutes, and we shouldn't do that again because we won't get to the rest of the comments.
Still don't have an answer.
Yeah, we still have an official answer, but we'll give our takes on it to this point. I think Jey Uso, will win the WWE title. I think he's winning the title at WrestleMania as well. Ray's in the house. Hope you're doing. Ray says that the best women's match was at Revolution. Looking forward to seeing it. Tony Storm versus Mariah. Have heard good things. Millennium Noob is in the house. Noob, hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Ask the question: did you see Io Sky slapping both Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair? That's a perfect way to start a triple threat. It is indeed. Io was not too happy being pushed around on Monday night, and that she reacted in the best way. I think that the triple threat's definitely on for WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's just a shame that I feel Io's coming across as the third wheel. It honestly feels like Io shouldn't be in this situation, and the way that she kind of stormed off like a child that's had her toy taken away from her afterwards, it may get better towards WrestleMania. Hopefully it does, but yeah, at the minute for me, she still kind of feels like a third wheel.
Yeah, I do get the vibe that she feels a bit like a third wheel as well. I think she's there to take the pinfall, but at least in WrestleMania, it's a high-profile place as well. I would have argued that you wouldn't have seen her in that spot a few months ago, but she's worked her way quite well in the start of the year, so credit to her for getting herself in that position. Ray says, I see Jordan Grace as the next NXT Women's Champion. I personally think that could be the case as well, but of course, not anytime soon. Roy asks here, do you watch WWE Evolve? If you do, what is your opinion? I'm looking forward to watching Kylie Ray wrestle. I was a fan of her, have been since she was in TNA. I've been a fan of Kylie Ray as well from TNA. Did have a brief spell in AEW as well. You watched Evolve, didn't you? I didn't.
It's very how NXT started off. It's kind of like we have to introduce you to everyone so you know who they are. And there's a tag team on there. Honestly, preppy swipe right. They're called. Honestly, just preppy players that apparently are trying to date your mum, your sister, your nan, everyone in between that's related to you. It's gonna take some getting used to. The wrestling, it's okay, but they're all new guys, man. You just got to give it time. Like, it's not my cup of tea at the minute, but I'm sure it'll get progressively better, and I'm sure there'll be a point where maybe when they introduce the titles on that show, it might start feeling a bit more like a proper wrestling show.
Yeah, I think it's early days. Obviously, judging it one episode so far. So, second one's tonight. So maybe we'll be watching the second one.
I'll give it a watch. It's only an hour long. I'm sure I'll find an hour to watch it. And in worst case scenario, I can skip through all the worst parts if Swipe Right are on there.
You will be swiping right, literally. Fast forward.
Definitely.
Yes. Jonesy, how will Becky Lynch come back to WWE?
Raw after Mania at this point.
It feels like it, doesn't it? It feels like it's not going to be. Or at WrestleMania itself would be quite cool to see. Say the champion is crowned, and then all of a sudden Becky comes out afterwards. But I would think that at WrestleMania, the person will get their moment. It's more likely it will be the Raw after Mania. Yeah,
I mean, typical WWE thing, they normally keep the married couples on the same show, so I presume she's going to be on Raw. So we might be dodging a bullet with another Charlotte-Becky rivalry. So, yeah, probably Raw after WrestleMania.
We'll wait and see. Of course, there is a draft, though. Will she be back in time for that? Because she'll be drafted to the same show as Charlotte Flair. Let's hope not. But I mean, I would like to see. I'd like to see Becky Lynch rekindle the feud with Rhea Ripley. I think that they didn't have the. They had a great match at WrestleMania, but they didn't have the match they wanted. I think Becky was ill at the time, but I think the initial way that you could bring Becky back is to go for Liv Morgan would be the initial one, because Dirty Dom and Liv did screw Becky Lynch out of the women's world title from Becky, which was her last appearance.
The only thing I can think is that if Bianca turns heel at Mania, like Bianca goes full heel at Mania, and then that way Becky comes in as the babyface in that rivalry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that that'd be quite interesting to see, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think it's going to go down. I think we'll see Bianca with heel. And will Open Family be more successful than Keith Lee when he goes to the main roster? And if so, why? I mean, I guess they're making the comparison here, two big dudes here, but I think Open Family will be more successful than Keith Lee because for one major reason, Vince McMahon's not booking him.
It's exactly the same thing I was going to say. Dude, Open Family's going to be huge, man. That guy has got... Dude, it's very rare that I find a new NXT wrestler where I just sit and go, that is my guy, man. And Open Family, look, he's packaged great. His music's great. His entrance is great. His wrestling's great. His promos are great. Like, for a guy that has an accent... He just works, man. Like, everything on this guy just works. He is going to be... I'm going to stick my neck out on the line with a bold prediction. I reckon he's going to be one of the best big men in pro wrestling.
I'm going to agree with that. He's got a great in-ring style. He's got a presence that really seems to connect as well. So yeah. I feel you with that one. I really agree. I think he's going to be a big deal. Anthony, the reason he was asking about the bad person or like the good people going to faces turning into heels organically is because he actually thinks that Stephanie Vaquer would actually suit that role very well. He actually thinks it suits her more to be heel than babyface. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm liking her as a babyface right now, but I certainly think she could play the heel role as well. And she's got the horns there. So yeah, I think there's certainly something that could work.
Actually, probably the best shout actually who's having Stephanie Vaquer turn heel.
It would be quite interesting. Certainly if all the championships get to her head. PS says, let me clarify something. I have nothing against Julie or Stephanie Vaquer. I love both of them. They are amazing. I'm just saying that I hate the idea of a double champion in general.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I get it as well. I'm not a big fan of double champion. Just was probably a bit overkill by saying NXT is dead. But yeah, I mean, look, Yeah, double champ. I'm not a big fan of double champions either, but I understand why they've done it. They've had to get out of a hole, and if Julie's going to drop the title, Stephanie McCall was the best person to drop it to.
Agreed. Yep.
Aries says, would Alicia and Eddie Edwards from the system be cool to see in NXT? We answered this at the very early part of the show, so you may have to go back to get more detail from it, but we both said yes is the short answer for it for you. So make sure to go back and check it out. About 15 minutes in. PS says, I'm tired of the storyline with the Death Riders on the seat. You know, I used to think at one point that Ronda Rousey was going to be the mastermind behind all of this. And I thought CJ Perry was going to return to be the manager of the Death Riders. I mean, at this point, I don't think anyone is going to be running the Death Riders, but yeah, certainly, it's a story that's just not worked out, unfortunately. But obviously, I can't give you the latest parts of it, as you already know. Roy says, Ash Elegance is not a good wrestler. WWE know this, didn't use her that much, just running her after the 24/7 title. I'm glad that, he's glad that Ash has not been the champion in TNA. I feel it's a little bit harsh. I don't think she's a bad wrestler. I just think that
the problem is she's on a roster with other wrestlers who are better, not better, but they are. Some of them are better wrestlers, but they are bigger stars in general. And I think that's the problem. Is she is stuck behind so much top talent that's the reason why she can't succeed.
I agree. I think a different era, she would be the top champion, but it's just not the era for that. And I think that's the case. But I do think she would have been in TNA. I did think that she was going to be someone that would have done.
I think if you'd have put her in like late 90s, early 2000s, even like Ruthless Aggression era, I think she would have been in a better situation.
Totally agree with that 100%. And the thing is, for me, is like, if you talk about Dana Brooke like 2016 or Ash Bailey against 2015, like wrestling at that point, yeah, she wasn't the best, but I think she's improved a lot over the years. She's put a lot of hard work and graft into it. So, I mean, like, for someone who's got that dedication who wants to succeed in this, like, that for me is worth the support alone.
Yeah, and I think, like, as well, like, her style of wrestling is kind of outdated. Like, if you look at the likes of Julia, Stephanie McCall, Jordan Grace, their styles are a lot more modern day. And I feel like Dana Brooke, Ash by Elegance is kind of in the same bracket as Natalia. Just someone of a previous generation that's just almost like doesn't fit in with the current crop of women's wrestlers. Like, do you know what I mean? I just think that's the problem. She's probably about 5 years behind where she should have been in WWE. Yeah, that makes a good sense. That makes a lot of sense to me, hearing that. I have to disagree with this one as well. James Ellsworth underachieved in WWE. I think he massively overachieved. Well overachieved. The guy was supposed to be a one-off. He just got one line in a promo that worked really, really well. And the dude was employed for about 18 months. Yep. He won Money in the Bank.
Not for the right gender. Not for himself either. But it did well. It didn't go down well either. Did you like Randy Orton's promo on SmackDown? Asked Kai. Yeah, I did. I think it's slowly moving to the right direction. I think we will be getting Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. Yeah,
the slight digs at John Cena I thought were really good as well.
They're very well put in place. We'll definitely get that match at some point this year, I think. Roy says Indy Hartwell returned to Australia, defeated Alicia, and won the Renegades of Wrestling Women's title. Well, congratulations. I think you have to go out to Indy Hartwell for that. Fantastic. Good to see. David says Obafemi makes me want to forward his matches. I have no interest in him. Wow. Okay. 2024.
18 months' time, you'll be saying a completely different story.
Will be interesting. Yeah, I mean, he's still learning. And it's not going to connect to it. People have different opinions. That's fair, David. But we both unfortunately are on the other side there. Bobby's in the house. Bobby, thank you for checking us out. Hope you're doing well. Still time to get some questions in. Sid says, are you going to watch Queen of the Ring movie? Yes, eventually. Not immediately, but eventually.
Yeah, I love watching. Like, I'm trying to build up a catalog of like all wrestling shows and like films. So I've got like The Wrestler. I've just downloaded Heels both seasons. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm still going to watch it. I've got Iron Claw. I'm just trying to build up a collection of like all the fictional film and TV stuff that's wrestling, like Glow. Do you know what I mean? I just want it on collection so I can go back and watch it because I love watching that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Pierre, I love that you've asked this question. I actually was hoping this question would come up. What do you think about the fact we're going to get Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 41? NXT, do you want to take it first?
They're doing a better build of that than they are Jey Uso. I am much more intrigued to see Priest versus Drew McIntyre for the fact that they just want to beat each other up. Look, man, they're going about it the right way. They are trying to make something out of nothing, and it's the best way to get both guys on the card. I am genuinely excited to see these two have a match. There is history, goes back to WrestleMania last year. It makes sense. It's clever booking. I'm all for it.
I agree. And I'm going to explain why I agree, because I know that a lot of people soured on the idea. I know Drew McIntyre had an unbelievable 2024. There is an argument he should be involved with Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. Have the four-way, make it WrestleMania 2000, and McMahon in every corner. Why not? But at the same scenario, Drew McIntyre's not there. He's on SmackDown, but so is Damian Priest. And like you say, if you look at the booking over the last 12 months, this match makes a lot of sense. At WrestleMania last year, Drew McIntyre won the title, got a bit cocky. CM Punk clobbered him out with one arm with a cast on. What happened? It turned out that Damian Priest cashed in Money in the Bank. Clash at the Castle, Scotland, we go on to next. CM Punk, of course, screwed Drew McIntyre, but who was the champion that he was in the match with?
Damian Priest.
Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre won the briefcase, tried to cash in on the Damian Priest versus Seth Freakin Rollins match. Okay, CM Punk got involved again, but who won the match? Damian Priest. Still was there. Fast forward a little bit to the Royal Rumble this year. Who eliminated Drew McIntyre controversially out of the Royal Rumble? Damian Priest. And who eliminated Drew McIntyre from the Elimination Chamber? Remember, Drew had won the Elimination Chamber in Australia a year before, going the whole distance. Drew out this year.
Damian Priest.
There we are. We have 5 reasons to do this match, and that means that it's kind of the same story as Jey versus Gunther. Drew McIntyre has pretty much something he can't get past, but he will get past it at WrestleMania, and he can put Damian Priest in the rearview mirror. Yes, it's not the big main event match that perhaps maybe Drew McIntyre wants, or perhaps certain fan base wants. But you know what? If you're that damn good, Drew, Damian Priest was on a hot run last year, but he's gone a bit lukewarm recently. Pull out a good feud with this one. Because if you make a star out of Damian Priest again, you're destined to definitely go for the top picture. I think Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest could be a sleeper pick for one of the better matches at WrestleMania in Vegas. And I think Drew will be picking up the win. And I think the storyline makes perfect sense.
I think if they put a stipulation behind this as well, street fight or something stupid like that, no holds barred, whatever. Yeah, this will again. So you're right, it's a sleeper match. This will be really good, I reckon.
Slamming the van,
Rage in a cage. Yeah, all of them.
Got to be done. Who will take on LA Knight at WrestleMania 41?
It's going to be a multi-man match, unfortunately, and it's sad because it's like we do this when we have no decent storylines for a mid-card title. We just throw 6 men into a ladder match or something like that, or I don't know. It might even be like a triple threat, but at the minute, I mean, dude, who's your best bet? I can't think of anyone at the minute that's kind of in the running for that.
So, like, yeah, you have like the Andrades, Carmelo Hayes, Santos Escobar. You throw all those together, you make a big multi-man match, for example. You get 6 people in there. So, Shim probably needs a rematch, for example. It's a great way of doing that. But at the same time, what I'd like to see Aleister Black return.
Oh, yes, please. That's the Black versus LA Knight for that US title, 100%.
Yeah. That would be what I want, but I don't know if we'll necessarily get it.
Aleister Black as 6 Man of Judgment Day. Why haven't we mentioned that?
Oh, hello. That would be quite interesting. And someone please ask a question about Chad Gable. We need to do that before we go off the air. We're going to be closing things off in about.
You could just talk about him.
We could do. In about 10 to 15 minutes, we are definitely closing off, so get it in while you can. Who would you guys like to go and see against Moose on NXT or main rosters? Is anyone particular now you want to see against Moose in the dream match?
I mean, I wouldn't be against like Javon Evans or someone like that. I think if you want to raise Javon Evans' profile and put him in a match against Moose, I think give him a title shot against Moose. Doesn't have to win, but I think just get him away from Ethan Page now at this point.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good shout. Ricky Starks, probably from NXT, if I had to pick, or Ricky Saints. We're not heard of Ricky Starks anymore. Ricky Saints could be interesting.
Yeah, but I don't want Ricky Saints to win, so that's the only reason why I'd keep Ricky Saints away.
Yeah, makes sense, I guess. Main roster, I mean, there's some good, I want to see meaty matches. That's what I want to see.
Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, could be fun. I'm down for that. Roman Reigns, Spear versus Spear.
Why not, man? Why not?
Why not? Let's have a look. What was the best match on Roadblock last night, in your opinion?
I'm going to say Hardy's versus Fraxium. It was what I expected it to be. It was old school versus new school. It over-delivered in my aspect. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And Fraxium have just further cemented why they are the best tag team in the world at the minute, even though they did lose. But do you know what I mean? It was kind of expected when it's up for a completely different company's tag team titles.
I'm going to agree with you. I feel it was like the opener or the main event, but I'm going to just shade the opener. I thought that, like you said, it was above expectations. And I have a funny feeling that WrestleMania weekend, Stand and Deliver, we're going to get the Hardy Boys versus Fraxium Part 2, this time for the NXT Tag Team titles. And I think we could be getting it in a ladder match or a TLC match.
Oh, yes, please.
And I think that the Hardy Boys are going to win.
Shock. Yeah, because to be honest, Fraxium and Frazier are due, well, Fraxium would just due a call up to main roster, so that should get out of clause there. Which then, if you wanted to do a rematch, you could then bring the Hardys to the main roster, which is what they want to do anyway.
And then at that point, TNA talent win NXT titles, and it could be the first cross-brand champions that we have moving forward. Actually, it's TNA people that actually do it. And it makes sense for WWE because it's former WWE guys and legends as well.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Bobby asking our thoughts on Sol Ruka getting a match against Chelsea Green for the Women's United States Championship on NXT next week. I mean, I agree. I'm on Team Chelsea here. This was just thrown together out of nothing. What's going on? Like, you know,
outrageous that my United States champion would be forced to have a match on NXT against Sol Ruka. Outrageous.
God bless American Chelsea Green. No, but seriously, I'm looking forward to the match. I think Chelsea's retaining.
Yeah. 100%. She ain't losing that on an NXT. That's going to be hopefully on a pay-per-view soon.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. NXT, when you mentioned Dion Lennox and the faction attacks on NXT roster, you forgot to mention the No Corner Catch crew after Lola Vice and Anna Grace about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that did happen.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Apologies, you're right.
Yeah.
But again, No Core Catch crew are just picking up losses at the minute. They're no ones. Do you know what I mean? They're irrelevant. Like, they can't beat anyone. They just lost to the Hardys for the TNA titles. They lost against Fraxium for the NXT tag team titles. They're not getting no wins. So, do you know what I mean? They're nobodies essentially at the minute in terms of like kayfabe book wins and losses.
Feels that way just a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, I mean, it still feels this group feels like Retribution 2.0.
Don't get me wrong. Tavion Heights is my guy, and I want him to succeed really well because he's like a new version of Chad Gable. Like, I love watching that guy wrestle.
And
to be fair, his partner for the speech impediment, I find him I'm in awe of him, and I have to watch him talk because just something draws me to him, and I have to watch him. Dude, they're a perfect combo at the minute.
They really, really are. We mentioned Retribution 2.0. Well, the SmackDown hacker and Retribution work in WWE 2025. If so, how would you bring them back? And who would you have as the leader behind both? So, go play devil's advocate. If your answer is no, I still want you to have a leader. So, first off, do you reckon it would work in 2025?
I mean, for me, the hacker, not so much. I think you could probably do a newer version of hacker. Like, for years, obviously, everyone wants that fly on the wall presentation that TNA used to do famously. And I think you could do a new version of that, whereas someone who doesn't necessarily hacks, but just kind of is found in all the right moments at the right time and manages to catch these vital moments that shouldn't be seen and shouldn't be on TV. I think that's a better way of doing the SmackDown hacker. Retribution, a group of people that go around and destroy stuff. I mean, not really. I mean, it's not good. I don't think there's any sound way you can do it. Like, when obviously they brought them in during the pandemic era and they were destroying empty arenas, it was like, yeah, this is cool. We can get away with this. It's almost like Retribution. Retribution is in the same bubble as like the Firefly Funhouse match and those kind of, like, what was that called again? I can't remember the name of what they used to give them matches.
Cinematic
matches. They're in that bubble where, like, they kind of work in that era. how you can bring 4 guys in to destroy a ring at the end of the show. I mean, sure, but again, you've got to have a reason for them to do it. And unless I suppose you put them together, I don't know. But I can't. I could see a new hacker working, like I said, a fly on the wall kind of guy instead of a hacker. But Retribution, I don't think could work in the present day.
I think we're generally seeing this storyline kind of being rehashed in NXT already. We mentioned the 4 guys. They're kind of doing what Retribution was doing, but just not to the full upper level. They were taking over the screen briefly for a couple of moments on shows for the weeks building up to Vengeance Day, which could have been technically hacking. But unfortunately, whilst I felt the SmackDown hacker originally in 2020 had a lot of potential, Retribution worked on week 1. It didn't work for the other 17, 18 weeks they did it. I feel that Retribution, and I'm putting this new group, it's early days for this group, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it at all. I don't know why. It should be an act that works. It doesn't work for me, so I just would leave it in the past. The hacker,
unless because the problem is they're not established. It's just 4 guys. There's no, you mean this is why it's not working for me either. Like, I can't get behind 4 guys that I know nothing about. I haven't seen them wrestle. I've got no motivation, no reason, no story. I'm like, why should I be interested in watching 4 guys just turn up and beat people up every week?
So here's the question for you then. Should these 4 guys have a leader?
Yes, 100%.
Who should that leader be? Wesley? He's not doing a lot.
He's bundled up with the other 2 at the minute, and he's been on TNA quite a lot recently, going over with, I don't know the name of the 2 guys he's with.
Have a super group. They need some muscle in that group.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, would Ethan Page work? I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to keep it like, I don't know. There's no reason. I can't think of anyone that's kind of like deserves to be the leader. Like Sean Spears. Essentially, you want a Sean Spears to be in that spot, but Sean Spears has a faction.
Yeah, and that faction's working pretty well, by the way.
Yes.
Side topic. I think that they're going to be the cause of the breakup of the D'Angelo family. I think Tony D's getting the call up after WrestleMania. I think the rest of them are staying in NXT. So,
oh no, poor Channing Stack Lorenzo.
I know it's like always the bridesmaid, never the bride scenario, isn't it? But yeah. Going back to Jones's question quickly, if it was main roster and they were trying this again, we had a T-bar, a slapjack, and a mace, who would be leading them in your opinion?
Karrion Kross, give him something to do. Alistair Black, if he's going to come back.
That's a really good shout. Both of those names are really good shouts, actually. I think that, because especially
Karrion Kross.
The mind manipulation like he has and his preciseness with everything he does in his feuds, I think actually could work really, really well. Yeah, he's very calculated. So, but for me,
come up with a better faction name as well than whatever the one he was with the AOP and all that, because that was a horrible faction.
Yeah,
it's a Final Testament, horrible name.
So Jonesy, we've probably not answered that too well, maybe, but we've given it our best on that one there, but we kind of feel no. But Jonesy has quite a long question. I think this is the last question that he's asked, so I think I've gone through all of them. So here we go. We're going to power through this one. You're certainly reading the question. With Triple H's vision for WrestleMania continuing, pushing new talent, or will nostalgia acts still dominate marquee spots? We'll answer that first, because this carries on into a long part afterwards. I do feel that he's interested in pushing new talent. We've got Jey Uso, who we think will win a world title, but we also have the nostalgia acts where John Cena might win the world title as well. I think there's a fair balance with the idea of having the Netflix deal.
It's all about the monies and all about what's going to sell more at the end of the day. That's why they're making such a big deal out of John Cena's retirement thing. Like, it's not very often we get someone who goes on a retirement run, and the fact that they are making the most out of it, and they are probably selling more John Cena merch this year than they've probably ever sold. Well, up until he turned heel on Cody Rhodes the other week, they were probably selling cake loads, especially with they're very clever that they're doing what AEW were doing, and they're now doing like location exclusive merch. So for instance, in Belgium next week on Raw, they have this beautiful like dark red John Cena t-shirt that's only available at that arena, and it's kind of a I was there t-shirt, and yeah, they're probably selling more money, making more money off of that alone. So dude, it works for the best of both, man. You have to have nostalgia acts. Like, someone's got to put over the new guys.
Absolutely, and I think that's the idea with Netflix as well. Make the established, obviously, like The Rock is always going to main event. John Cena is going to be a big deal during this year. So you will have those nostalgia acts, but you are having the newer talent being pushed through as well. And there is newer talent getting their opportunities. So I do think that eventually Triple H's vision will see those new talent push out the nostalgia acts and become the main talent of WWE on Netflix, where a lot of people know who they are.
I'm quietly confident that Triple H will have a more successful run of putting over new talent than what Vince McMahon ever would.
Absolutely, 100% agree with that. 100%. Vince always had ways of, when he knew who the talent was going to be, more than not, he had a way of making them the guy. We've seen it with John Cena, we've seen it with Steve Austin, we've seen it with Hogan, but too many times when someone else had organically got there, he didn't like that because it wasn't his choice. I think Triple H will be different with that. I think Triple H wants all of his talents. It's like all of his babies to get over. So I think whoever's the ones that getting over, they'll get pushed.
I think with Vince, it was more of a case of if his hand was forced, like a Daniel Bryan, like a Kofi Mania. Like, he doesn't want to put these guys at the top of the card, but if the crowd force his hand, he has to put this talent over, which is why it almost makes it why Daniel Bryan and Kofi's runs, like their initial wins at Mania, was really special, because these are guys that really under Vince shouldn't be top guys, but that have proved, like, the biggest underdog stories that we've got. I don't think there's really going to ever be another Daniel Bryan or Kofi Kingston, because Triple H, I think, will just generally book the talent better.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's interesting, isn't it, how it feels like that underdog story there might disappear, but yeah, maybe it may not. But as we move on further, do we see any heel turns at this year's Mania? Possibly, maybe someone could be aligning with Paul Heyman. I think Bianca Belair is a good shout. I think that we spoke about this on a previous episode. We feel that Naomi is going to beat Jade Cargill on night 2 after Bianca wins the women's title on night 1. Bianca is the reason Naomi wins on night 2, because they were in it. Maybe not all along. Now, I think it was meant to be all along, but I think it'll be established as the idea that actually Naomi's words this past week on SmackDown got through. And I think that that's going to be the case scenario. So Bianca Belair, I think, is probably the best one for shout there. And who do you see turning heel, Mania? And how, with WWE's favoring a more polished, safe, in-ring style approach, and AEW embracing a faster, high-risk style reminiscent of independent wrestling, does WWE's method protect longevity at the cost of excitement, or does AEW's approach prioritize short-term spectacle over long-term health?
At the end of the day, WWE are all about making money and making serious money, and the AEW are in their attitude era. They are going out and doing all this crazy stuff, and unfortunately, we are getting a lot of people injured from it, and it's a negative because certain people get injured and it kills momentum. Adam Cole, for instance, got injured, killed all his momentum. Now he's back he's on the kickoff show of Revolution. Adam Cole, of all people. This guy would, he come out of NXT as a multi-time NXT champion, tag team champion, whatever, and first ever North American champion. And in AEW, he's on the kickoff show for Revolution. There are pros and cons to both ways, but WWE are past their attitude era point. They don't need to be doing none of this crazy Spanish flies off the top of cages and all this kind of stuff. They've done that. They can do these moments as and when needed, but they don't need to do it every week, which is what AEW does. And I think the proof is in the pudding, where you look at the numbers. Like, AEW are trying to get those numbers in, so they're doing all the crazy stuff. They're flying off the top of cages. They're making everyone bleed every week. And they're trying to build themselves up. And unfortunately, when you're going up against this titan that is WWE, it's really hard to do. And effectively, the only people that are going to suffer is the wrestlers, because they're going to do these crazy spots. People are going to get injured. They're not going to be able to perform every week. And like, for as many 5-star classics as Will Ospreay puts on every week, the 1 week that he gets injured and then he's out for 6 months, and he can no longer put on any more 5-star matches for the rest of the year, who do you turn to then to put on your 5-star matches? Because there is no one who consistently puts them on like he does. So what do you do then? Who's your go-to 5-star match guy? And that's the problem they have.
That's really well said. There's not much more I can add to that, really. So well said. Look, I mean, the thing is, WWE have a safe in-ring approach, but I do think that the matches are still very well put together and exciting. It all depends on what your flavor is of professional wrestling. If you prefer an indie-based style, or if you prefer a WWE style, some people like both. I happen to enjoy a bit of both. I don't just like to have. I'm going to sound greedy, because when I go to the buffet, I don't just take one type of ice cream. I'll take two. That's how I roll when it comes to it. But yeah, I mean, for me, you need to protect wrestlers' health as best way you can. So I do think that really you need a bit of column A, you need a bit of column B. You need to choose your moments of when to have that high risk, if you will, whether it's an independent style or however you want to do it. But like you say, WWE pick their moments, and obviously they do it when they feel the need to and have to. But they don't have to, like you say, we don't have to have Undertaker throwing Mankind off the top of Hell in a Cell anymore. We're past those times. It is a time where AEW probably feels they need to do that, like you say, because they're playing the catch-up game. But at the same time, like you say, it can come to the risk of someone seriously getting hurt at some point.
Yeah. And I mean, the one you said, oh my God, my brain's just completely farted on what you just said. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been, I know where I'm going now, I remembered. I'm much more of a storytelling guy, and which is why Cody Roman, like, just hit on the story that we've gone through, the ride that we've been on for the last 2 years to get to that point where Cody finally wins that title, and it is an emotional roller coaster. And then they do the things like throwing the Undertaker in there, which no one expects, and it just makes it an even bigger moment. We get Seth coming out in Shield gear, like, they know how to tell a story. And ultimately, that's what I am. I'm storytelling. I want the story. I want the narrative, which is, again, this leads back to my Jey Uso thing. I'm not feeling Jey Uso. I'm not getting a story from Jey Uso. I'm just getting a guy that's lost to Gunther and wants to win a world title. And like, that's, again, and that's what I'm going with. But like you said, I can appreciate a 5-star wrestling match from Will Ospreay. I can go and watch Revolution. I can go and watch a killer steel cage match. I can go watch Mariah May versus Toni Storm. At the minute, is probably one of the best stories, one of the best stories in wrestling this year, and it's been on AEW. So they do have the potential to do it. It's just they have to find the perfect balance, like WWE has, where they can tell these great stories, but every so often throw in that high spot or that dangerous moment where you go, oh, that was killer. Then, we get the "this is awesome" chant from the crowd. AEW, even though they've been around for 5-6 years, still haven't worked out the perfect mixture to get those two down at the minute.
I think it's a fair argument that when you look as well with their current show format at the moment, Death Riders, like I said, can't comment on Revolution, but I know that Death Riders hasn't been working, for example. That's their main angle, main storyline. But a lot of things underneath it have been working. You look at Swerve and Ricochet was working. You look at, for me, I was really enjoying Hangman and MJF. Like you say, you have Toni Storm and Mariah May, and Will Ospreay versus Carl Fletcher is something that's working really well also. So there's been some good stuff in AEW, but it's a very interesting question. And like you said, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to it. But I get your point with Jey Uso, because it's a catchphrase, and that's what's massively got over rather than an in-ring competitor. But it's an element of the catchphrase it's emotional investment, which is what we want from fans. But you can get emotional investment from a story, you can get it from a catchphrase, and you can get it from a 5-star classic. It is all just what it comes down to. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
I will leave you with this. Revolution was probably their best pay-per-view because it's the best storytelling they've done. When in terms of Ricochet versus Swerve, Carl Fletcher versus Ospreay, Mariah May versus Toni Storm, most of that show is really good, and most of it is because the stories have been really good.
There you go. I will be watching Revolution tomorrow, so I will look forward to having the opinions with you all very, very soon on it. I can say that much. Hornswoggle underachieved in WWE. Would love to see him as a champion. He was one of my favorite wrestlers. He was a cruiserweight champion.
WLC watch along coming soon. At some point, we will watch it.
We will do it. We just WrestleMania
I love it.
season's here now. So we can't do it yet, but we'll do it somewhere. Tyson Fury will co-manage England with Wayne Rooney at Circlewade. That's fun. Sounds quite cool.
Sure.
Should be good. Pierre wants to see Carmelo Hayes versus LA Knight for the US title, with Carmelo becoming USA champion. I'd be down for that. I just think the Melo Don't Miss stuff is it's filler for now.
Yeah, it's kind of, they've dropped the ball with Carmelo since he come up. Like, he had a kind of hot introduction and progressively went on to lose several matches, and is kind of like not doing anything at the minute because he can't pick up a win.
Absolutely. We are going to power through the last 10 comments, ladies and gentlemen. So let's do it. Is Chad Gable one of the best wrestlers in the world? Absolutely, yes. 100% yes. But just to elaborate further, what did you think of the angle on Raw with the luchador mask that is blatantly Chad Gable, but someone else was taken out of the arena?
How dare you say that was Chad Gable? We saw proof that was not Chad Gable. That man in that mask was arrested and taken away by the fine police officers, and Chad Gable was being interviewed by Kathy Kelly. I think it was Kathy Kelly. And yeah, he proved his innocence. Outrageous that you would accuse Chad Gable of that being him just because he's wearing an American-made luchador mask. Anyone could have had that made up. Outrageous.
I'm looking forward to it. Who is aligned with American Made? That could be the next Chad Gable. It'll be interesting to see. Moose versus Ivar. That's a big meaty match.
Yeah, it is. That's a good big guy, a big beefy man.
It'd be a good match, and Moose would win. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm sold. Peter, I love the fact that we had Jordan Grace versus Ruxin Perez in the theatre Madison Square Garden last night. It was a really incredible match. It was. I mean, to be fair, it was a pay-per-view quality show from top to bottom. That was arguably one of the best shows in ages. Yeah, it was a slightly predictable show, but it was a bloody good card though. Some great matches.
It was. Do you know what? It's actually the first time in a long time that a Tuesday night special has actually had a worthy card to go with it being a TV special.
Totally agree with. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. That was jam packed. That one was really there. Yoshiki Inamura, of course, is with Josh Briggs on NXT. That could be, I suppose, an interesting match. I don't know too much about Inamura, but he did impress me when I saw him at the last Vengeance Day show.
Yeah, a big beefy guy again. Yeah, like they just need some more TV time. I think them too.
They certainly do. The best Chelsea Green was the best when she was Hot Mess in TNA. I am enjoying her run now, though. But Hot Mess, of course, was fun back in the day.
Please tell me you watched the video I sent you of her doing the Lad Bible thing where she's trying the snacks. My God, Chelsea Green is honestly a treasure, and she needs to be protected forever because she is amazing. I said it before. She turns up. She is someone who loves her job, and she turns up every day and knocks it out of the park. I love Chelsea Green, and I hope, just wish her all the best, and I cannot wait for the day she finally wins a world title.
I look forward to that days when she has Elba Fire by her side now. I think it's a great appointment as well.
Great appointment.
Fire and Piper and Niven could be going for the tag titles, and Chelsea Green could be the singles champion. It seems perfect. Remember Soul being Chelsea Green? That's what Morgan deserved the shot. We know why the match was put together, but it's scandalous that the match has been put together. Chelsea Green did not want this match on NXT. This is why we are against this. 100%. It's just outrageous. God bless America and Chelsea Green. No, seriously. The match should be good. I'm looking forward to the match. I think it's a great opportunity for Sol Ruka as well. And obviously Chelsea Green should retain her title, we would assume.
Yes, I would assume.
Absolutely. And yes, and again, this I agree with as well. At least it's a fresh opponent and not Meech. And again, I think we need to move on from that. We need to move on from that now. What wrestlers don't you like watching? I always know the answers to this when I'm watching TV, but when I get asked it, I always forget. Jey Uso.
Like I said, it's just like he offers me nothing different. It's just the same Jey Uso every time, and it's like it's like, yeet, dive through the ropes, super kick, splash, okay, just do something different, man. At this point, he's like John Cena in his 5 moves of doom.
Yeah. People that are poorly booked usually are the people that I don't like watching, that I don't feel invested in. There's about a third of the AEW roster that I'm not interested in watching at all, because then
anyone on ROH.
Yes, apart from Athena and Billy Starks, they're probably the only two I would say, exception to the rule. But yeah, anyone on ROH, not interested. I could never get into QT Marshall. There was one name I'll throw out there, and I actually liked him.
I'll tell you what. For as much as I like him, what's his name? No quarter catch guru guy, Regal son, Charlie Dempsey. Yeah, as much as I love Charlie Dempsey, honestly, I've just got no time for him at the minute. Like again, that's poor booking. He's not picking up wins. I'm like, why am I interested in a guy? Like, I really like the guy. I like his wrestling style, but his booking so bad, and I'm like, I've just got no reason to watch him.
One from WWE. This isn't to be me, by the way. It's just, again, it's a presentation thing that you can't. Something's not right in what we're watching. But Rich Holland is one that I do struggle with.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what. I've got one for AEW as well. Max Caster. Like, they've got him with this whole best wrestler in the world shtick, and then he's losing matches, and I'm like, this is not the way to build this guy up. Like, even if he's picking up cheating wins, I just don't see. I've got no time for him. Like, his whole shtick is best wrestler in the world, and he's losing. So yeah,
absolutely. I get asked this all the time. Can I speak the Swedish language? I'm still at early stages. I'm slowly improving. It's going to take a while for me to be fluent on this one. NXT, though, maybe this question is meant for you rather than me.
I can only do a very bad impression of the Swedish chef from the Muppets, and I won't do it just to save face.
Probably best not to. Apparently, you got Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, and the Rock figures as players on 2K25. Fun. I'll say fun.
Oh yeah, the action figures. They love to add them as DLC characters.
They do, don't they? Wesley is with Tyson DuPont and
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby. Absolutely. It's still hard for me to read those names, though, unfortunately. Is Miro the best wrestler in the world? No.
Nope.
No. Do you miss Vince McMahon not being in WWE? No, don't miss Vince.
Nope.
It was a long time due for him for the company to move on. It's been a breath of fresh air the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And Roy says best live Q&A on YouTube. Roy, thank you so much. That means the absolute world. And thank you to everyone for your questions. We really appreciate everyone getting involved.
Super long today.
Super long. This is longer than what we usually do, the Maz. But I'll tell you what,
we never do them this long.
We had a lot of fantastic questions in there. So yeah,
we blame Jonesy for his 12 questions.
Jonesy, we love you though. There were some great questions, so thank you. But thanks to everyone as well. We love you all. If you've enjoyed the video, do a massive favour, hit that like button. It really helps the channel more than you can ever realise. Leave a comment after we've gone off the air as well. I can answer anything you want me to talk about, anything pro wrestling related in the comments section. Share with a friend as well. Let them know we're here. Or social media, whether it's X, whether it's Instagram. Just drop the link in there. Just anything to help the channel. It goes and helps a long way, more than you can ever imagine. And we are truly grateful. Massive thanks to the man next to me, NXT Steve. Always takes time out of his day to answer a lot of questions on pro wrestling.
Dude, always a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this because I've missed talking to someone about wrestling, strangely enough. So yeah, it's always good to do these, man. Yeah, like I know I've waffled tonight about some of the stuff, but yeah, it's good to rant every once in a while.
Absolutely. We'll be back later in the week for a Mount Rushmore video as well. And I've got some videos that I promised you that I'll get out. So I'm going to look to get those sorted in the next couple of days. WrestleMania match card predicted one more time. This is in a very quick format. And it's a legit one. And yeah, and obviously as well, we'll have Standard Deliver as well, because why not? We're now on Standard Deliver season. Let's get it out there for you as well. But that's all from us. And we might be back with another Q&A next week. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves and each other. See you for the next one.